it's super nice to finally connect with you freely. I know we've been trying to like coordinate this with like our time zones and everything.
Yep,
So
yep. Yeah, it's awesome
finally,
to be here. Thank you.
yeah. So do you want to start? Like, I'm sure you've told your story a million times, but do you want to just give a little bit of your background, especially for like maybe some of my listeners who have no idea who you are?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, I'm the banana girl. That's what I'm referred to as for quite a while now, and I've been on the internet for, gosh, it's like getting up to like 20 years, I think. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I started my journey like to raw food about in 2001. I actually started my journey.
Okay.
And when it comes to like my upbringing, where I grew up, I actually grew up on a little kind of hobby farm, and we had a banana plantation. Yes. So we actually had a banana plantation and we ate a lot of bananas. Well, a few. Not compared to like what I do now. I average about 10 bananas a day for the last, nearly twenty years.
Yeah.
And so basically, grew up on a farm. My health was okay. We ate a lot of whole foods, but we also had meat and dairy. And I had some health challenges. I moved to the city and then I developed anorexia. So yeah, I got into the whole like trying to look super skinny, and I thought the way to do that was, obviously starve yourself. And I was taking recreational drugs, and I was really doing a lot of damage to myself, especially in my digestion. So I became, gosh, like really, really sick, digestively in particular.
Yeah.
So that led to me trying to just discover the answer. Like I've always been into nutrition,
Okay.
always been into it ever since I was young. And I think the obsession with like counting calories and trying to eat as little as possible actually led to me having like a really strong interest as well in nutrition, and
Okay.
also being ill, I wanted to heal myself.
Yeah.
So I also developed bulimia, where I was vomiting like many times a day, and
Yeah.
that was really like heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. And yeah, like eventually I found the raw food lifestyle in 2001. And that was through a yoga teacher who was very inspiring. She was glowing, and I'm like, I want what she has.
Yeah.
She looks amazing. She has a great energy. And so I interrogated her, on what her secret was.
Yeah.
And yeah, she just basically told me it was raw food. Raw food was She ate a lot of raw food, and she convinced me to get a juicer. So I got a juicer and I started juicing, and I was getting some positive results for sure. Like I was like, yeah, this is great. But I had no idea about how much to eat. So
Yeah.
I was just drastically, drastically under eating. So yeah, so I fell off the wagon then, and then fast forward to like 2006. Yeah, about 2006, 2005. I found, I feel like I tell this story quite a bit, but I found like a little article in a paper in like one of those raw food natural health magazines, and there was a girl in there and another girl inspiring me. She was just amazing, and telling her story, and yeah, just sharing all the benefits she's got from a raw food diet. And I'm like, yes, I remember this. The yoga teacher, she was looking amazing. I need to try this again. And at the time, I was suffering. I'd been through so much. I damaged my gut so much over the years. My microbiome must have been an absolute mess, because I had been through, this diet in particular called the metabolic typing diet. I'm not sure if you heard of it, but it's just one kind of, it's kind of like keto diet rebranded. They have a lot of different names for these terrible diets. And yeah, and I tried that. I was eating chicken liver for breakfast. Yum, yum.
Yeah.
Yum, yum. And at this point, I had no ethical connection to animals whatsoever. I'd grown up on a farm. We killed our own chickens to eat, and it wasn't a regular event, but we did do it. We milked cows. We exploited animals. We didn't know any better, right? We didn't know any better. It's not that my parents were bad people.
Right.
And yeah, so at this point, I just, yeah, didn't care about animals. So I was eating the chicken livers, and I was actually eating like a whole chicken a day sometimes, an entire chicken to myself.
Yeah.
And this really made me a lot more ill, a lot sicker. And I guess I just reached like rock bottom. I was just,
Yeah.
this is just like nothing works for me. You know what I mean? Like I felt like I was trying everything. Ayurvedic doctor, Chinese medicine doctor, who actually smoked in the middle of the consult. He said, "Excuse me." He went out, and I smelled the smoke, and I looked around. He had like this shield kind of up, and I looked around. He's smoking, and I'm like, "You must be kidding me!" And I'm taking advice off this guy.
That's
Anyway,
crazy.
I'm not saying they're all bad or anything like that, but my experience was negative. Homeopathic doctors, naturopaths, gastroenterologists, who I spent $250 for a 15-minute consultation, and I got an endoscopy with him. And what he told me was, "Look, you've got an inflamed gut. That's what the test came back with. But we have a new drug. It's coming out in America. I mean, it's out in America, sorry, and it's coming out in Australia soon, and it's going to fix you, basically." And I just pushed the chair away and stood up, and I said, "I don't want any more drugs." And I actually walked out. I was taking a lot of drugs by that point, not only recreational, but
Yeah.
antibiotics, a lot of antibiotics, to fix the gut, which it didn't, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was at rock bottom. I was ready for raw food. I was so ready, and I dived in there. I tried to find all the raw food material I could, and there wasn't much at that time. Like I'd
Yeah.
have to go to the library and find some old books on, basically the only thing I can really find was like fasting, a
Okay.
book on fasting, like maybe some old natural hygiene books. Not a lot at all. And there was one website, a forum called David Wolf's forum, Sun Food Forum or something like that. This is like back in the day, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But it was very inspiring, to be around others who were also into just healing, you know what I mean, and feeling their best. And so
Yeah.
I dove in there. I just went right in there, bought like, at first I did it wrong though. Ate quite a lot of high fat dishes, gourmet raw high fat.
Yeah, I know.
And
I
then
want to
I
get
realized,
into yeah.
yeah, and then I realized like this doesn't work. I mean, I was a personal trainer at the time, so I understood a fair bit about, I mean, I was into fitness. I was training a lot, but I still couldn't get slim. I was still like 20 kilos overweight. But you feel it. You feel it if you eat too much fat, if you're training, right?
Totally.
Yeah, it just doesn't work. So
No.
eventually I got onto sweet fruits because there was a girl, Nadia, who I'm still friends with today, at my first picnic. And we all had our gourmet raw dishes. Everyone bought their raw samosas, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
But it was just wrong.
Yeah.
And she was sitting by herself, actually. She wasn't, trying to be apart from everyone, but she was at the end of the table, and she had like 10 mangoes. And yeah, she had 10 mangoes, and she was just stuffing them in.
Yeah.
And she was really healthy looking and glowing. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, that's
Yeah.
too much sugar. That's too much fruit, right?
Yeah.
And so I interrogated her like I did with the yoga teacher. And she said, you got to look into Doug Graham. You got to look into Doug Graham. And I did. I got the 80-10-10 book.
Nice.
And things really just fell into place. And I started to feel great. I actually got a consult with Doug for like 30 days, I think, at that time. And
That's
that was
awesome.
a really, really big turning point for me, for my health. And that's where it all began
That's
is,
amazing.
yeah.
That's so cool. It's so funny to hear you tell your story. I mean, I have some similarities to your story. I dealt with anorexia for quite some time as well, and like severe calorie restriction, and then I obviously had Lyme disease, and I was on antibiotics for 10 months. So
Oh, I don't know that about you. Oh, wow. Yeah,
yeah, and
right.
I even saw a naturopathic physician, and she put me on the antibiotics and an antifungal medication for that long, and everything
Oh,
got
no.
worse. Nothing got better. Yeah. So
Shocking.
yeah, so I definitely am like, I totally know what you mean when you're
Oh,
going through
because
like, yeah,
yeah, you're like, you don't know where to turn anymore, hey, because there's so many conflicting messages out there. And that's why I always say to people, just learn the basics about human physiology and the fact that we are frugivores, we are primates. Like when
yeah,
you learn the absolute basics, then connecting up with the correct diet makes it a lot more sense. It makes a lot more sense, right? It's a lot easier to make that connection with fruit and with a fruit-based diet.
Yeah, absolutely. And like
And
you said too,
yeah,
when you were talking about the Chinese medicine doctor who like was smoking, like, okay, they're not all bad, but some
no,
are.
no,
And that's like how I felt about my naturopath. Like some people think they try the holistic route and it didn't work for them, but it's like, but what practitioner did you see? Like maybe it was
yes,
just that one.
yeah,
So
yeah, exactly right. Like, I mean, there's some raw vegan naturopaths as well, which is amazing. It's
that's
rare,
amazing.
but there's
Yeah.
definitely switched on
Yeah.
practitioners out there.
Yeah. And again, they're probably hard to find, but once you find them, I'm sure they're like super life changing for the
Yeah,
people that they're working with. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
So, the biggest reason why I wanted to have you on today is because we're going to have a very cool conversation about sugar. If you
Yeah.
guys follow Freely, she's been talking a lot about like white table sugar and the benefits of that. And I'm not super well versed in all of that. So, I wanted to have Freely on to talk about it and have her kind of get into the science of it all.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I guess the most natural place I think to start, and you could choose if you want to take this talking point or go somewhere else. But, first of all, like fruit sugar is not bad. And
Mm.
so then naturally, I guess table sugar is not bad. So why is then white table sugar also not bad? And how is
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Well, firstly, you're blurring up a lot. I'm not sure whether you're getting it on your end. Is
It's
yours
just
like?
the way it records. So it looks blurry
Oh,
sometimes, but once it puts it together at the end, it won't be blurry.
okay. I was gonna say I can't really see you much anymore, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I know. Yeah. So there's a lot of misinformation out there about white sugar,
Mhm.
obviously, even about fruit, right?
Yeah.
People are like, oh,
Totally.
you can't eat too much fruit. There's too much sugar in the fruit.
Yep.
But what people need to understand is every cell in the human body runs on sugar. Okay, it runs on glucose, and humans are sugar miners. We are really, really after the sucrose in food. So sucrose is high in fruits. Okay, it's not high in grains and stuff like that. That's glucose based. So sucrose is equivalent to white sugar. It's the same chemical molecule that you find in fruit. It's the same as what you find in, the bag of white sugar. So it's identical, and I understand how, people are afraid of it because not only does it look white and kind of like chemically, it
Yeah.
does, right? It's like, oh, wow, that's too white. But white sugar isn't actually white. So that's quite a something for people to, that can help them feel more confident about it because it's actually a crystal. It's actually translucent or clear. So it's not white at all. It's just the way that the light hits the scattered crystals, the different angles of the crystal.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like snow, right?
Okay. Yeah. I
Snow
never
is
thought.
actually, yeah,
Yeah.
snow is actually clear. It's just about how the light hits it, so it makes it appear white.
Yeah.
So if people can grasp that firstly, I think that's really important because then they can be like, oh, wow, it's not even white. It's not like some chemical bleached agent. It's
Yeah.
actually a clear crystal. And it's actually created through photosynthesis, which is when the
Okay.
plant makes the sucrose or makes the white table sugar. It's the same
Yeah.
molecule, makes the sucrose out of the sunlight, the carbon dioxide, and water together. So that comes from the sunshine. So it's actually crystallized sunlight. It's crystallized sunshine that you're eating. So
Yeah. Okay.
it's pretty amazing. Like yeah, it's very, very healthy. And I know it's going to be very hard to convince most of your audience that it is healthy, but hopefully I can just drop a few things that make them feel more comfortable about it,
Absolutely.
more confident. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Same
more
molecule.
about how have you added more than white table sugar into your diet now that you're like, okay, I don't need to be afraid of it. So how are you adding it in?
Well, I add it into my smoothies and
Okay.
I'll put a couple of tablespoons, but I've been doing that for like over 12 years. But
Okay.
more recently, I have sugar water, which is it's just 4 tablespoons of any sugar you want. Okay, but white sugar, this is another thing that people need to realize. White sugar is actually the purest. It's 99.9% pure. It doesn't have a lot of contaminants. And when I say contaminants, it's when they're cooking the sugar and you see it turning dark brown like molasses, that's
Yep.
actually like burnt plant matter. A lot of that is burnt plant matter. People
Okay.
are like, no, it's minerals. It's not minerals. Minerals don't go dark like that.
Yeah.
So it's not actually healthier to have the brown sugar or the molasses because the white sugar has actually just been spun more and just processed a little bit more. Processing doesn't equal bad. Process
Okay.
a little bit more so it's actually completely pure. You're not getting any contaminants. You're just getting the sucrose crystals, which is what you want.
Yeah.
So I just add 4 tablespoons of white sugar or raw, it doesn't matter, whatever you feel comfortable with,
Yeah.
and frozen berries and some lemon or lime juice. And into like maybe in about 800 mils to 1 liter.
Okay.
And I
And
have
you drink
that. Yeah, I drink that like in the morning because overnight your liver depletes up to 60%, 60 to 80% of the glycogen in the
Yep.
liver.
Hmm.
Okay, and sugar water is really amazing because sucrose breaks into glucose and fructose, which are your body and your brain's main fuel sources. Glucose is number one, but fructose also helps power the cells in different ways, and especially replenishes the liver
Okay.
after after the overnight fast.
Yeah.
So people having coffee and stuff like that, they're really depleting themselves, even
Yeah.
further when the body is asking for sugar, and that's what I'm giving it by doing the sugar water. And I also add it to cooking as well.
Oh, okay.
So
Super
yeah,
cool.
probably about like 150 to 180 grams a day. So
Of
it's
the table sugar.
fair bit.
Yeah. And then in addition to the fruits that you're eating during the day.
In addition,
Yeah.
and the fruits, I have almost always 10 bananas a day. Almost
Yeah.
always. It depends. I mean, like we got bought some
Oh my
durian
gosh.
from a friend.
That's a cute
Yeah,
durian.
yeah. I love it. Like I wish I could say we grew it, but we haven't, not yet. We have trees and they are
Yeah.
maturing.
So
I
cool.
actually had durian for breakfast, which is such a
Oh,
treat.
that's awesome. Yeah. That
Yeah,
is
but
a
I always have 2 meals of fruit per day, and
okay.
then I do raw till 4, which is
Same.
a diet that I created
Okay.
quite a few years ago, which is just fruit for breakfast, fruit for lunch, and then a cooked low-fat, high-carb, plant-based meal for dinner.
Yeah. It's so funny. Before I had even followed you, I was like, I had naturally gravitated toward fruit all day until dinner. And then you were calling it raw tail 4. And I was like, oh, okay, that
I
makes
do
sense.
that. Yeah, I think a lot of people were doing that, and it just uh, it gives more freedom, doesn't it?
Yeah.
More freedom.
It's the most effortless. Like, I mean, some
Mm.
nights for dinner, I'm like, okay, I actually want a raw dinner. And
Yeah,
so I,
yeah.
I allow myself that freedom, but it feels the most effortless to be like, okay, yeah, raw all day. And then dinner, I'll have my like more cooked meal or something.
Yeah, exactly. It's nice to just be able to relax a bit and not have to. I mean, once upon a time, I did have more of a purity focus, where
Hmm.
I felt like I had to be raw, like I wouldn't be healthy unless I was all raw.
Yeah.
And, I did it for like nearly 6 years and it was
Hmm.
great. And look, it is our natural diet, right? It is our natural diet to eat fruit based and all raw. But in this concrete jungle, in this environment, that most of us live in, trying to exist amongst other cooked fooders, let alone people eating meat and everything like that, it can definitely make it a lot easier and still
Yeah.
be very healthy. So,
Absolutely. So let me ask you something. Then what would you say is the difference between like sugar water and then like fresh juice? Like
yeah.
is like sugar water still superior or would they be about equal?
The thing is, with juice, it's very hard to get the amount of sucrose in the juice compared to if you add it yourself. Like, you can really bump up the nutrition a lot. Like, you have more control over
Mhm.
it. Like,
Yeah.
fruit has micronutrients, of course, phytochemicals like polyphenols, all that great stuff. And that's amazing. And I'll never try and claim that you should just eat straight sugar. That
Yeah.
should be a meal. And you know what I mean? And not have
Yeah.
fruit. No, I'm
Right.
more about adding it,
Like
adding it to
supplement.
bump, to
Yeah.
bump up the nutrition because humans are, like I said, really after the sucrose. And it's very important for us because as soon as we can consume it, part of it goes to our liver and part goes like to the bloodstream. Fuels every cell in our body, the muscles, the brain, and it's like this perfect harmony. And because there's fructose in there, it's not. The blood sugar spike. We can talk about that. Hey,
Yeah. Yeah,
because
I want to get to that.
yeah, we'll
Yeah.
get to that. We'll get to that
Yeah.
soon. But yeah, it's really it. Juice is fantastic. It really is a fantastic, of course. But I recommend adding some sugar to the juice because we
Yeah.
live in a world now where the fruit quality is very poor. It's
Yeah.
very poor because the soil has been absolutely pillaged, by modern farming practices. It's
Mhm.
really, really bad.
Yeah.
Uh, the the practices of picking it super, super early, gassing it. There's
Yeah.
so many things that modern society has incorporated to make it convenient and quick. So
Totally.
yeah, the fruit is. I mean, I'm sure you'd agree. Some of the fruit that you buy, like from the supermarket or something, tastes absolutely
Yeah.
shocking.
Or it never ripens because it was picked way too
Never,
early.
never ripens or ripens weirdly, or just explodes or something before it
Yeah.
actually ripens.
Yeah.
So this is
Totally.
a way we can control the nutrition. Like we can actually, improve our situation here.
Totally, yeah. Well, I'll have to try adding sugar to my juice and I'll let you know how it goes.
Well, I mean, like I've got basically my whole VIP community. I have a community, a private Facebook community on Facebook, and
Yeah.
I'm doing a 12-month course. Shameless plug, by the way. I'm doing a 12-month course at the moment, and it's 30% off. If you want to join us for a full year, we've got 4 months of content already up. Recipes and live
Yeah.
streams and heaps of information. And I've got basically everybody on the sugar water in there.
Yeah.
Um, not
So cool.
it's not. There's no shame if you don't want to do it. Of course,
Yeah.
I'm not shaming anyone in the group if they don't want to incorporate the sugar. But I think because I personally, it makes a lot of sense, and I've also felt a lot of improvements from it myself. So
Yeah.
I want to share it with others. But
Yeah. Well, and I'm so curious about, yeah, just being able to compare. Do you do you work out? Are you super active? Have you noticed a difference in your training with adding it in?
um, I would say I'm not. I wouldn't say super active. I'm actually a bit sedentary.
Okay.
Which I don't recommend, and I speak out against it, but I'm a little bit of a hypocrite in that way, I guess. I'm quite little bit inactive because
Yeah.
I'm on the internet and the computer like 10 hours a day sometimes, and
Okay.
it's no
Yeah.
excuse. But I do still I still keep the balance though. I don't not move my body. I do exercise regularly still, but it's not that much. It could be more. But
Got
when
it.
it comes to incorporating the sugar, I definitely think it's made me more effective with my training. It's not like
Okay.
a huge jump because I was already adding sugar to smoothies, and
Okay. So it's already in.
yeah, and I've already been on a fruit-based diet for nearly 20 years. So yeah, I don't think it's like suddenly like, whoa, I'm like, rocketing along because of the sugar. But
Yeah.
I feel more hydrated. This is a really big thing.
It's a big
And it
deal.
actually has been shown to improve hydration by adding sugar to water.
Yeah. I mean, your
And
skin looks
yeah.
super hydrated, so
Oh,
that
thank
speaks for
you.
itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It like I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything, but it really does feel hydrated. And I'm 45 this year, and I feel like it's looking fresh. You know what I mean? I'm happy with it. But I mean, that could change. Who knows? I could just go down and turn into a wrinkly old prune soon. Who knows?
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, but
No. So then what about I mean, I feel like I know the answer, but obviously you wouldn't group sugar alcohols into the same category as like white table sugar, or
no,
would you?
no,
Oh no, yeah.
no. Oh, yeah. And when it comes to those, yeah, you're talking like erythritol and
Yeah.
xylitol and stuff like that. Yeah, the
Mhm.
artificial sweeteners.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Interesting thing about the artificial sweeteners, actually, they came into popularity. Like they have been around for a while, but they gained a lot of popularity in the late 90s and around
Okay.
2000. They did a big marketing push, and actually since the late 90s, 2000, sugar consumption's been steadily declining.
I did know that.
So
Yeah.
interesting, because they're like, hey, sugar's bad. Try our chemical instead. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Even though people need to understand this too, sugar is natural. This is not a synthetic thing.
Yeah.
White or translucent sugar crystals, white sugar, is actually natural. It's just been isolated and extracted from sugar beets or sugar cane. It's
Okay.
not a
Yeah.
synthetic fake thing. That's what people need to really understand. It's not something made by humans, it's made by plants.
Yeah.
So the sugar alcohols, I
A lot.
really don't like them. Yeah, because they trick the brain. They
Yeah.
trick the brain into thinking carbohydrates has come in, but you can only trick the brain for so long, right?
Yeah.
Before the brain rebels with a binge or many binges. And
Yeah.
yeah, and people just get fatter and sicker and they're less satisfied with what they're eating. Like
Totally.
people are on the diet coke all over the place, right? These diet things, diet here, diet there. Like they just have to get on the sugar, like the sugar is what is actually good.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly. And again, I feel like we're so taught to fear sugar, fear fruit because it's all about protein. Make sure you're getting enough
oh
protein.
yes, because protein is like an energy source, not.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not an energy source, it's a building block.
Yeah.
We
Which,
shouldn't be going, yeah.
yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So, um,
Yeah, so
but
don't have, yeah, the artificial sweeteners, like,
yeah.
terrible for gut health as well, microbiome. If you want to have explosive diarrhea and, you know what I mean, some real digestive issues, then load up on the artificial sweetener.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a bit
So
bad.
what about like sugar and cancer? Because there's a lot, like obviously there's some people who think that all sugar feeds cancer, including
Mhm,
fruit. So people will even
mhm.
say, okay, if you have cancer, don't even eat fruit. But then there's some people who say, okay, well, fruit is fine with cancer, but then you don't want any other sugar. Like you don't want processed sugar
Mhm.
or white table sugar. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, those people need to eat more sugar. People who think, for one, they need to eat more sugar. But yeah, I understand the fear around this because there is a lot of propaganda. There's, oh gosh, there's studies and stuff saying, oh, sugar fuels cancer, all of that. And yes, I mean, sugar fuels every single cell in our bodies. Every cell runs on sugar. So, your cancer is just your mutated cell. So, yes, it's still being fueled by sugar. But it's not most actually mainstream, the main cancers that we know of, like colorectal cancer, pancreatic cancer, brain cancer, lung cancer, breast, like certain breast cancer, they're actually not efficiently using the glucose that comes into the cell. It actually dumps a lot as lactate. It can use that for building materials still, but it's not using it as energy. Like a healthy cell is like 98% or something more efficient at using that glucose that comes in. So
Okay,
it's
yeah.
not actually the cancer cell's preferred fuel. Glutamine, you probably know of it, hey, like the non-essential amino acid that your body makes an abundance of. It actually, the cancer cells, a lot of the cancers, there's different cancers and it's a bit more nuanced than, just, yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of the major ones are real glutamine like addicts. They really love it. And you know what food is the highest in glutamine? And that's animal products. Meat, dairy, eggs, fish, all of that the highest in glutamine. And the lowest, fruits and vegetables. Hello. you know, yeah,
That's
so
wild.
I guess that's a little bit of a tangent, but
Yeah.
you should definitely the sugar in the fruit is the same as the table sugar. Yes,
Yeah.
it comes with micronutrients and stuff like that, which is definitely helpful. It's
Yeah.
amazing. It's coming from nature like that, so it's always the best. But people need to understand also that inside the cancer cell, it has its own immune cells, and
Hmm.
those immune cells are actually running on sugar as well. So
Okay.
if you try and take away the sugar, whether it's table sugar, whether it's fruit, or any source of sugar, then you're going to weaken your immunity against the cancer, against
Yeah.
correcting that mutated cell. So
So,
you can't do that.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's not like decrease the fatty acids it's another thing. When you think of, like, when you break it down, amino acids, fatty acids, carbohydrates, you know,
Yeah. Same.
it's in the name, right? It's in the name. So, yeah, hopefully that makes sense to people.
Absolutely. So obviously, so if you're saying like even amino acids and like fatty acids, so would you even argue that a lot of like the protein recommendations that are recommended for men and women are like too high, like it's more than what we even need?
Yeah, I think it's like zero point 0.8, isn't it, per kilo? 0.8 of a gram per kilo body weight.
Yeah, per like lean body mass, like not
Mm,
your overall, but your lean body mass. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it's too much. It is too
Yeah.
much. Especially when, look, the science just doesn't back this up as being a problem, as a protein deficiency being a problem, especially in the Western world, most of the world. Okay, if
Right.
you're a starving child in Africa, like, of course, you're not going to get enough overall calories.
Right.
So then you might get this marasmus or kwashiorkor, which is like to do with not enough overall calories. And then they have an amino acid, deficiency or protein deficiency. So,
Yeah.
of course, if you're malnourished completely, then you're going to be deficient in a whole lot of things.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is not
Totally.
seen. This is not seen in the Western world. So what is going on? And the science doesn't actually support to increase the percentage of calories from protein in
Mhm.
the diet if you're even strength training. If you're trying to get all muscly and huge, like increasing the percentage of protein beyond, what they recommend doesn't
Mhm.
actually yield any better uh, muscle building results.
I had actually read that before, and I've even read that sometimes if we're eating too much like overt protein sources, your body's just going to start storing it as body fat because it's not a preferred fuel source.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. Well, it's like it's going to be, yeah, it's also going to be causing issues like we're talking about the glutamine, excess
Yeah.
protein, excess amino acids. It causes people problems with their organs of elimination, cancer potential. Like it just, yeah, it's marketing. It's so much marketing, and it's been going on for a very long time.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's like most people, as you said, especially in the Western world, are not protein deficient. Way more people are probably, glucose, sucrose deficient and fiber deficient. Those are much more bigger problems
And
than everyone worrying about protein.
yes, yes, exactly right. But there just seems to be this agenda against sugar.
Yeah.
Have you seen it on social media, on Instagram and everything? It's like people are just, sugar is white poison. Sugar will, like, there's this older guy who's got this really viral video on Instagram. He's like, if you eat sugar, it's going to depress your immune system, like just even like a teaspoon for 6 hours. And it's like, it's like crazy because it's the opposite. You know, your body, your immune system runs on glucose, and sucrose is just a split, 50-50 split of glucose and fructose. And it just fuels you perfectly,
Yeah.
except if there's fat involved, and that's another subject, right?
Yeah. Definitely. Well, and it is on, like you said, on social media, there's so much,
Mm,
hate towards sugar, towards fruit sugar. And one thing that I'm like thinking like, and this is, I guess, more conspiratorial, but if sugar is really so great for our brain and it really, probably allows humans, our mental, our, brain function to function at like its max capacity, of
yeah,
course you wouldn't want people's brain functioning optimally. You would want them tamped down. So
yeah,
yeah, make it all about the protein. Don't like fuel your brain with all the necessary
makes
sugar,
sense. Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, I don't think it's a conspiracy. Like, I feel this is part of the plan, part of the master plan, because keep people like uh, undercarbed, under sugar, not being able to think properly because your brain runs exclusively on sugar. So if you're not getting enough of it, and if you're trying to run on ketones or trying to run on protein, it's just you're going to have so much brain fog. You're not going to be thinking sharply. You're going to have a lot of disease progression, and yeah, and dependent on the system and being medicated, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And couple that with so many people being medicated for mental health issues these days. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, like
Yeah, I
human
mean, should
consciousness is so
they
just
I
tamped
mean,
down.
yeah, like it should be seen as medicine too for those people. A lot of them
Yeah.
need more sugar. Like, It's actually very medicinal. It's medicinal even to put on your wounds. Straight
Oh,
sugar.
wow.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah,
I didn't know. Oh, that's
antibacterial.
so cool.
That's where honey gets a lot of its antibacterial properties from the sugar aspect.
Okay. That makes
So,
sense. Wow. Okay. Very cool. Yeah. That's awesome. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure you work with people too. Like people always report the second they start eating more fruit, just how much clearer they're thinking and how much
hmm
lighter they feel. And it's like, yes, your brain is finally so happy.
exactly. Like so happy. And fruit will always be queen. I want to make a point of just clarifying that, fruit is the best. It comes from nature, it comes in a package. However, it has been it's quite depleted these days, the fruit that is available to us. And that's part of why we're here growing our own fruit, trying our best.
Yeah, to
So
just
yeah, so we can get the best quality, but unfortunately most of the world doesn't have access to, growing their own.
yeah,
So it
definitely.
makes a big difference.
Totally. So let's switch gears a little bit. So people like they may have listened and been like, okay, I agree, like fruit sugar is great and like I'm white table sugar, I can see why it's healthy for you, but I don't want to deal with glucose spikes and that's bad. And like
Yeah,
you don't want to have too many glucose spikes. So what do you tell people when they're like, it's spiking my glucose, this is bad, what do I do?
I know. Like Glucose Goddess, she has really
Oh,
done a lot of bad things for sugar and for this whole
totally.
glucose spiking. She's representing normal glucose, like rising glucose in the bloodstream as something bad. Spikes are not inherently bad. Okay, it's not. People need to understand that's the way the fuel gets into the cell. We need that. So the sugar
Yeah.
goes up, the insulin comes along and helps the sugar get into the cell. This isn't a bad thing. We need to spike the blood sugar essentially. And I know
Yeah.
people don't like that term spike. it it's got some bad connotations, hasn't it? But raise the
Yeah.
blood sugar and
Yeah.
see it's all about how quickly the sugar clears from the bloodstream. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. They think, oh, just if it's in the bloodstream, if you have that spike, if you see it on the glucose meter that it goes up fast and too high, then that's bad and I can't eat sugar. But that's not how it is. It's about how long it takes to clear from the bloodstream. So if your blood sugar stays elevated after the spike, you get the spike, which is normal. That's how the fuel gets into the cell. But if it stays elevated, for hours longer than it should, then you have a problem. And
Yeah.
whether that problem be too much fat in your bloodstream, or you might have lipotoxicity where you have excess fat accruing, like gathering in your liver, your pancreas, muscles, everything,
Yeah.
this excess fat, which then makes it hard for the insulin and the insulin to help the sugar get into the cell because the fat is kind of clogging up the cell. So, yeah, people need to realize that it's not the sugar. Sugar is actually trying to help fuel you, but if
Yeah.
it's interrupted by that excess fat, because look around what people are eating. It's so far from what a frugivore should be eating,
Yeah.
right? So much fat and so many additives, and I think
Yeah.
it's just in this very sad place. Like when I see some shows on TV and they're trying to normalize eating foods that are so far from what our physiology is meant to be consuming.
Yeah.
So, yeah, when you really clean up your diet and you keep your diet low fat, I recommend like 5% of daily calories as the best from fat.
Okay. Yeah.
Definitely below 10%.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And it's
totally
like,
agree.
yeah, averaging that amount. Sure, some days you might go over. Some days you might have
Right.
20%. But,
Yeah.
as long as you try and average that to around 5%. Because you look at the Okinawans, like the longest lived culture. I think it is on Earth. I think they're actually the longest, and they have the longest lived females on Earth
Oh wow. Okay.
historically. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're having historically. They might have changed quite a bit now, but they were having 6% of daily calories from fat. Only 6%.
Yeah.
Also, big sugarcane farmers. Big
Interesting.
sugarcane farmers. So they were having the refined sugar as well.
Yeah.
And the purple sweet potato was the main crop in their diet,
Yeah.
and it's high in sucrose. So very interesting, right? Because the grains, then they don't have sucrose. Grains don't have sucrose.
Yeah.
They just have glucose, which is not optimal. Have to break down thousands of glucose bonds to access the glucose.
Yeah.
So you want the foods that are high in sucrose, and that is fruits and also sweet potatoes. Like
The
the
purple
purple.
one specifically, or any variety
Yeah,
of sweet?
purple sweet potatoes very high in sucrose.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so it kind of makes you think like, wow, that's the longest lived culture, longest lived females, and they're
Yeah.
having a lot of sucrose. They're having very low fat. Sure, they're moving their body, which I recommend as well, but
Yeah, obviously.
yeah, and very low animal product consumption.
Yeah. That's so fascinating. So yeah, obviously my next question is, what do you say to people who say, "Oh, well, if you're constantly spiking your blood sugar, that's going to like increase aging." And clearly
Oh,
you're a
yeah.
good example that that's not the case.
I should have about 150 by now, if that was the case. I know there's another glucose goddess thing. She has some video about like glycation where you look like you're cooking like a chicken on the inside. If you have a lot of sugar, you're cooking from the inside, and it's really bad. It's going to age you so much, and it's easy for her to say. I think she's like 30 or something, and that's it's different if you're 40, nearly 45. Like
Right.
I should be showing the signs of all this glycation and should be looking
Right.
really old and weathered. But
Yeah.
it's another high fat issue. The fat keeps the sugar in the bloodstream too long. The protein, it ends up binding with the sugar, and this can cause the glycation. But it's again not, the sugar. The sugar is like, just let me get in the cell.
Yeah, it's just the innocent bystander.
Yes. Sugar is
Yeah.
being blamed for fat crimes. Like
Yeah.
all the time. So just all people need to do is remove the excess fat. And I think some people get a bit depressed when they hear that. They think, oh no, but I love eating fatty this and fatty that. You know what I mean? I love the fat content. But actually, I mean, over time, I don't even like having high fat meals anymore.
Totally agree. Yeah.
It just
They
doesn't.
don't make me feel great after.
No, it doesn't make me feel great. It doesn't give me good results. Like it makes me, even in my mouth, it like just feels like, And I don't like oil or anything like that. And I think it's just been so long that I've been following low fat. My body just really is communicating with me that this is the best and to keep going. So don't worry, you're not going to I want your audience to know they're not going to miss the high fat because your microbiome changes as well and your taste buds change. And before you know it, you're craving a healthier diet. So did we go off track there?
I think it's great. It's great information. I like you. I don't consume oils. Maybe once in a blue moon if I am eating something somewhere else that it has olive oil in it, but that's certainly like I don't cook with it. I don't add it into anything. Like my body's like, yeah, the only really overt fat we want is avocado.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah.
Because seasonally too, like where we originated in the equatorial regions, we wouldn't have got a lot of fat. We wouldn't have been able to have fat all year round. Now we're just like spoiled. We have just so many avocados. We can eat them as many as we want every single day. And obviously oil is just abundance of oil. And it's very, very easy to follow a high fat diet. And it definitely leads to problems long term.
Totally.
And blood sugar issues like insulin resistance.
Yep.
Because like your cells are like little like tiny rooms basically, and they have a light in there, and they need the light to be powered, and sugar powers that light. It's like powers the electricity, but sugar needs to be able to get into the cell, and sugar can't get into the cell or into that little tiny room without the key, basically the key to the room. And insulin has that key. Insulin's like the doorman, basically. Comes along with the key and opens the door for sugar to get into the cell. But see, when you eat excess fat, it's basically like a hoarder. A hoarder moves in, and there's like stuff everywhere. And in the hallway and everything, and you're trying to get to your room. You can't get to your room because there's just so much buildup of the fat. All the stuff. And then insulin can't get you into the cell. And this also happens with intracellular fat, like I was saying, lipotoxicity. The hoarder can also be in your room and jamming the door and everything. So it becomes like a real mess when there's excess fat. Like a a process that is usually very, very simple and easy with the doorman and the sugar. Just gets in there. When the blood sugar rises, insulin comes along and helps it get into the cell. But
Yeah.
that very simple process is really interrupted by the excess fat, and then people develop insulin resistance. I mean, we've known for nearly 100 years what causes insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
Dr. Himsworth? I'm not sure if you've heard of him.
No, I don't think so.
No, Dr. Himsworth, he is a British professor. He was a British professor who actually coined the term insulin resistance. He's the creator, he's the inventor of the term insulin resistance and insulin sensitivity. And nearly 100 years ago, he proved that insulin resistance is caused by a high-fat diet, and it's made worse by a high-fat diet. And insulin sensitivity, which is what you want, it's actually improved by a high-carb diet. So for me, I'm thinking, why is this being kept from us?
Yeah.
Like we knew, the creator of the term insulin resistance and sensitivity, he actually established this already through many tests. That there's science on it if people want to read about it as well. So it makes you think, it makes you wonder, right? Like,
It does. It really
another conspiracy theory.
exactly. Don't give people the proper answer. Yeah.
Mm. He
So then,
also sorry.
no,
He
you're
also
good.
he created the oral glucose tolerance test, which is
Oh,
still
okay.
used today to diagnose type 2 diabetes.
Wow. Oh,
So
very
they
cool.
use his science when they want to, but certain
Yeah.
stuff they're like, nah, let's brush that under the carpet because we want to keep people obese, sick, dependent on big pharma,
Medications.
basically. And I'm not saying big
Yeah,
pharma is all bad because some stuff can be of use, but
of course.
you know what I'm
But
saying?
mostly
Mostly.
they do. Yeah. So then that kind of leads me, my next question is like, what would you tell people who, are diabetic, have type 2 diabetes? Like, how can they reverse their condition to be able then to add sugar to their water and sugar to their smoothies if they wanted to?
Yep, yep.
Or even just eat more fruit if they wanted to, because obviously that's like a fear too, if
That's
you're
right. That's
diabetic.
right. More fruit is number one. Definitely number one. Change your breakfast immediately to a fruit meal.
Yeah.
And even a smoothie as well. Some people are like, oh no, blood sugar spike. But look, you're going to have a bit of elevation if you have insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. You just will have to get through that. There will be elevation for some time because you have that lipotoxicity, most likely, where the fat is in the cell. So I recommend get that fat intake low straight away, 5% of daily calories, which you can work out with chronometer.com. And that's the most important first step. But you need to obviously replace those fat calories that you're taking away with carbohydrates and with sugar as well. So I recommend people dive right in there because they can clear the fat from their bloodstream quickly.
Yeah.
It doesn't take too long, but they still have the existing issue. But is it better to continue having more fat than sugar? No, you've got to replace those fat calories with the sugar and the fruit, with the refined sugar as well. Just keep that fat low. That is, people are reversing type 2 diabetes with
it's crazy, but it's obviously you're doing something natural so your body can then heal.
Yeah.
But there is like a growing period. When I first started switching to low fat and high fruit, like I was coming from being insulin resistant. I wasn't diabetic, but I was insulin resistant. And like my blood sugar, I would have crazy crashes and it was very uncomfortable for a while, but eventually everything rebalanced itself out. And so it was just a little uncomfortable for like a week or two. It was not super fun, but
I'm glad you said that. Yeah, because that will give people more confidence and not feel so. I understand. I completely understand why people feel scared. Like, there's so much propaganda about sugar, and so many studies even that are done on high fat with added sugar, blaming the sugar again. So I understand why people are petrified of eating sugar, and it's taken me even time of just educating myself. Really, like when you start to really pull back the curtain, and educate yourself on a very basic, fundamental, like physiological level, then
Yeah.
you just feel more confident because you're like, oh, okay, I understand how it works now. This isn't the
Yes.
boogeyman, you know?
Right. Yeah. You can learn more about your own body and how
Yeah,
it's supposed to function. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, one thing I'm going to point out that's kind of a sidebar is you mentioned like you can input stuff into Chronometer, which is what I use too every once in a while if I want to like I like to check where my fats are at periodically, like,
Mm.
oh, where have I been at this week? And so a couple of weeks ago I was just putting stuff in Chronometer from the day just to like see, and I ended up figuring out that some of the like logs of different fruits or juices are incorrect. So like I had drank
Yeah.
like today I had 32 ounces of fresh pineapple juice that I juiced, and it's in Chronometer it said it had 0 grams of protein, and I'm like, I don't think that's right. And so I like looked it up manually, and there's 8 grams of protein in 32 ounces of
Oh,
pineapple juice.
wow. That's a
I'm
big
like,
difference.
it's a huge difference. And like then I also had a jar of mandarin juice that day, which 32 ounces of fresh mandarin juice has 12 grams of protein, which also it was logged as having no protein. So I'm thinking, how much too of this whole protein thing is it just because like it's not being accurately logged in these food tracking apps that so many people use, and then
Mm.
they're thinking, oh well, there was no protein in that juice that I had or that banana that I ate, and it's like, no, there actually is. It's just not inputted correctly into the database
Mm.
that you're pulling from.
That's a good point to bring up. That's a very good point to bring up because they aren't completely accurate at all. And like the fact that most of the fruit too is like, how have they tested, like how sweet has the fruit that they've tested been as
Yeah.
well, and the sweetness of fruit that you get, and yeah, the content, the mineral content, everything is going to be,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's really just
compromised.
an estimation at the end
That's
of the
right.
day.
Yeah, yeah, you shouldn't take it as like absolute gospel. Like it's, I mean, like it's like the truth for sure. But
Yeah.
it can be a good, yeah, just a good one to get a basic understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good baseline for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the other
I think actually dates are definitely overestimated as well, because they say it on the side of the boxes. I think it's about 60 to 70 calories. But I can tell from so many years of eating dates, and one week I did dates only. I had over 400 dates that week. Yeah, yeah. So I'm really experienced with dates, and I can tell compared to like bananas how
yeah,
much they tide me over, how much they keep me satisfied. And it's definitely not the calories that they say on the box or on, yeah, the chronometer. There's
that
something
makes
for
sense.
people. I actually just I put them at 40 calories each rather than 60 or 70. Just a side note, people want to think about that one too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely something to keep in mind if you're someone who's like consistently always tracking what you're eating. Like take it
Mm.
with a grain of salt because it's
Yeah,
probably not totally accurate.
yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. So the other thing that I was curious to ask you about is a big question I get a lot is like, what about women who are starting to go through like menopause? Are they still able to like, thrive and maintain a balanced weight eating like, eating lots of sugar, lots of the, table sugar and the
Yeah,
fruit
yeah.
sugar? Or do
That's
they
a
need
good
to
question.
adjust their diet to add in more fats? Because obviously, women they're told, oh, for your hormones and you're going through the change, you need more fat. And I'm like,
The
I don't
hormones are
know.
powered by sugar. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like that's what people
Yeah.
don't understand. Like estrogen, progesterone, they are powered by sugar. So yeah, if you're going to have excess fat, especially like from animal bits and pieces, which are coming with their own hormones, animal hormones, that is not good. But
Yeah.
yeah, so my mum, for instance, she's 74, so she went through the menopause quite a while ago. But
Okay.
yeah, but she is a great example. She's been 15 years fruit based. And
Amazing.
yeah, and I think it's really helped her hormones a lot. And I'm actually, I would say that perimenopause age, right?
Okay.
And I feel like if I wasn't fruit based, it would probably be pretty bad,
Yeah.
with the hormone fluctuations and everything like that. But because I have that high sugar, high fruit diet, it's really, really balancing. And I
Mhm.
noticed just the other day in the VIP community, actually, one of the members who is perimenopausal too said, I don't have any more hot flashes anymore
Amazing.
since doing Raw Till 4. And another new member's like, oh, that's really good to hear because, I get like 6 per day. They're just starting.
Yeah.
And another member said, yes, all my hot flashes are gone as well. So that's a testament to it. That's a high carb, high sugar diet. And I think women don't, you don't have to eat any differently. You don't have to eat any differently. You just have to continue moving your body. That's important,
Yeah.
right? That's helps balance the hormones as well. Moving your body, keeping the fat low. I know everyone's like, oh, fat's good for hormones and we need lots of essential fatty acids and
Yeah.
we need some, but it's easy. It's easy to cover it.
Super easy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I just think like, don't worry, just eat enough. Make sure you're eating enough carbohydrates, that you're moving your body, that you're hydrating, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is, I mean, obviously, I totally agree that the sugar is what's key for hormones. Like, I mean, I'm 31, so I mean, I still get a regular cycle, but I used to have PCOS and super painful, irregular periods. It
Mm,
was just a disaster. And then since being like primarily fruit, everything is like clockwork. I use the Natural Cycles like tracking app, and I
yeah.
constantly get reminders from them. Just a reminder that your period is just like clockwork. It's super predictable. And
Oh
I'm like, this is
well. Very
actually,
nice.
it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that's all.
That is awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
especially seeing you've had a past of problems. That's really, really good. I mean,
Yeah.
that's something that has been huge, like the feedback that I've received over the years about a fruit-based diet, and especially about an all raw diet,
Mhm.
all sweet fruit-based, that there's no period pain at all.
Yeah.
And it's super regular. I mean, I'm nearly 45 and mine is completely regular still. There is not,
Amazing.
yeah, there's no fluctuations at this point, but I'm sure it'll happen because it has to happen, but
Right. Yeah.
it's not yet. Um, yeah, so that's been a really huge thing for me too. When I have gone all raw, absolutely
Yeah.
no pain. But when I'm raw till 4, it's not perfect, but
Right.
it's still very little compared to how it
Right.
used to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But just getting out that one cooked meal seems to completely eliminate any sort of pain at all, which is
Yeah.
huge for like so many women, with endometriosis and
Yeah.
all sorts of like, oh, yeah, I've
Yeah.
heard
'Cause
some
it's
horror
like, why
stories.
why make yourself suffer every month if there's like this other way and it could be totally seamless? Like obviously,
Yeah,
yeah, it might be a little uncomfortable. Your body is doing something,
yeah,
but like, yeah, it shouldn't be totally debilitating and like,
yeah, yeah,
come on.
exactly. That debilitation, I mean, like that's not normal. Can you imagine animals in nature like
Yeah.
experiencing that? It just doesn't make any sense. I don't
Totally.
think nature wants us to suffer like that, like the
No,
creator, whoever that is.
definitely not. Yeah. So yeah, and like I've even read before that even menopause, the change is really supposed to be fairly seamless for women. It's not supposed to be this uncomfortable thing that most people experience, and
Yeah.
mostly that is the byproduct of terrible nutrition and environmental toxins even.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. I mean, I think some women suffer so terribly. And oof, yeah, I can't imagine suffering that much because I think that's part of why I came to the raw food movement as well, because I don't like to suffer. You know what I mean? I was in
Yeah.
so much pain, like with my digestive system, and so, oh, just felt so horrible. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, I was really wanting to move away from pain. So I can't imagine, yeah, going through what some women do and still continuing to eat the same poor diet, like over and over, and just not making that connection between what you put in your mouth and then the results that your body expresses. Like
Yep.
it's got to take notice of what's happening.
Totally. Yeah. What would you say are like three common mistakes that people make when they start to add more fruit to their diet or sugar even?
Yeah. Three common mistakes. Number one is not enough.
Okay.
Not enough. Because, we've been told like one piece of fruit's enough, or a couple of pieces of fruit in a day. Don't eat too much fruit. So I think people still a little bit,
Condition.
fearful, yeah, and not sure about how much they're allowed to have, kind of thing. But that's a big thing. Have
Yeah.
like have a 8 to 10 banana smoothie. Just go for it. Don't be
Yeah.
afraid. Don't be afraid of the sugar. Don't be afraid of the fruit. It's going to help heal you. It will help transform your body. That's number one. Number two, what's a mistake they make? Gosh, with adding sugar, it's usually just not enough.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to
Yeah.
think. Maybe just eating low
Okay. Yeah.
quality fruit and then not enjoying it and then falling off the wagon.
Yeah,
Right?
like not even eating ripe fruit. I feel like a lot of people eat
Good,
fruit that's not
good.
fully ripe.
Yes, you got me there. That's a good one. Yeah, ripe fruit. That's a huge one. The quality,
Yeah.
the ripeness, not
Hmm.
enough. What's another
Yeah.
one? You can help me with this one. I'm just trying to think. They're
Probably,
kind
I
of
mean, going back to the fat thing is probably just not lowering your fats low enough. I
not
feel like
lowering
that's
the
a huge
fats.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those are probably the three things that I do see happen.
Yeah.
It's mostly the under eating on fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do
and
on that.
ripeness. Yeah, ripeness is a big thing. It
Yeah.
because you're eating something that is higher in starch. Like a starchy banana. That's not what you run on. That's not going to feel
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if you have like 10 of them.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. If you had 10 underripe bananas, ooh.
People have done it before. Trust me, for sure.
Oh, I'm sure.
It does
Yeah.
happen.
So is there anything else about like white sugar that we didn't touch on that you're like, people should know this about white sugar?
Um. Well, I think they really need to understand that like it's hydrating. It's not acidic.
Okay.
People think that's a big one. People think it's acidic,
Yeah.
but it's actually neutral on the pH scale. It's
Okay. That's good
neutral,
to know.
and
Yeah.
after processing, it's neutral in the body. Like people want to say no, no, it's like Barbara O'Neill. She says, I'm not sure if you know who that is, but yeah,
I do.
Barbara O'Neill, fellow Australian. She says that white sugar is pure crystallized acid. She's really passionately against it, but
Yeah.
she hasn't done the basic education about what sugar actually is, and it's not acidic at all. So it's good to get that one out of the way. Also, it's very, very pure. It's extremely low on contaminants, 99.9% pure. That's why it looks the way it does.
Yeah.
And remember the brown sugar? The brown sugar has turned that way from being cooked a lot.
Yeah.
So those compounds haven't got better for you.
Okay.
They're not healthier because some of them are burnt as well. And sometimes there's ash and all sorts of things in molasses. So you're actually better off having white sugar or translucent sugar. Remember, it's crystallized. Yeah, crystallized sunshine.
Yeah.
It literally is. And
I love it.
it's exactly the same molecule that is found in fruit. Sucrose is exactly the same. The white sugar, the clear sugar, and the sugar in the fruit are
Yeah.
identical. And yes, it doesn't come with the phytonutrient, like the micronutrients and stuff like that. It doesn't come with them, but that's the body knows how to deal with it very well. Like we are equipped. We even have a sucrose splitting enzyme. It's called sucrase. How cool is that? Like we literally have an enzyme specifically for sucrose. It's called sucrase. So it's like the body doesn't have any problem breaking this sugar down and using it instantly as fuel. I'm trying to think what else on sugar. Eh,
Yeah.
we can talk about.
Well, that's all so like I mean it's also interesting. I mean, you've even changed my perspective on it because I would have said, yeah, just avoid any sugar other than the sugar like in fruits basically or like maybe coconut sugar or something,
Yeah.
but
Well,
yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. And I mean, coconut sugar. I mean, you can make cane sugar at home in a saucepan. You can make it
Oh,
yourself. It's very easy.
yeah.
Just reduce sugarcane juice, and
Okay.
eventually it will like come into like a
Crystalline.
toffee, basically,
Oh,
and it will be browned because of what I spoke about. But yeah, you
hmm.
can make it at home. It's super simple, and I'm glad that I have like kind of influenced you in that way because I feel like sugar has such a bad rap. I feel like everyone's bullying sugar, and I'm like the sugar defender. Like I didn't like sign up for this, but I just like with my research, during my research, I'm like, hang on, this is not right. Things are
Right.
not looking this is not good. You know what I mean? It's dodgy and the truth is not being shared here. So I feel like it's my duty to bring some love back to the sugar.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you doing that because, yeah, I've certainly learned so much from you doing that and doing your posts recently
Oh, good.
on sugar. So it's fascinating, and I'm glad you're like, okay, I'm going to put this out there because obviously it's really controversial, and I can only imagine
Oh,
the
yeah.
hateful comments that you have been getting
Oh
because
my God,
obviously,
people are so bad. People are
sure,
like, they want me dead. Like it's insane how intense
crazy.
people feel about this. And it's just like an example of how much they've been, brainwashed. right? Like by all the propaganda on Instagram, even on Facebook, whatever. Like, and another thing I wanted to, just before we moved on from the sugar, is that in 1930s, we are actually eating more sugar, quite a bit more sugar than we are now. Isn't that interesting? So, yeah, we were eating quite a bit more sugar. Type 2 diabetes wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
Obesity wasn't a thing, but we were eating more sugar. So, and now you look at the statistics today, like I said before, the artificial sweeteners came in, like the promotion around 2000, and then sugar started to decrease because people were like, oh, scared of sugar now. And, but what continued to go up was the type 2 diabetes. What continues to climb is the obesity, type 2 diabetes, why the sugar's going down.
Yeah.
So what's that tell? The fat is going up, the fat
Yeah.
intake, it's like rocketing. What's
That's so
that telling us?
interesting. Totally. Well, I didn't even know that like white sugar intake was decreasing. I knew fruit intake has been decreasing for like however many years now. So like clearly, obviously, fruit's not the problem. So yeah, I'm not surprised that even that white table sugar is decreasing. Like you said too, now they offer sugar alcohol. So it's like, yeah, we don't need that anymore. We'll just put either the erythritol in your food and it's
Yeah.
fine.
So yeah, and you're gonna get explosive diarrhea. Yeah, it's terrible, isn't
Exactly.
it?
Well, then they recently found out that erythritol causes heart disease. So it's like,
Oh no.
not good.
Oh,
And so the
yep.
last few things that I want to ask you is just some rapid fire questions. They're just fun and just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
some fun personal things. So my first one is I always ask everyone like, what's your go-to breakfast? And obviously yours is fruit, but like what specifically, or maybe what's your favorite like type of fruit breakfast?
Well, I just had a durian there, which is very unusual. But
Oh, okay,
when it
yeah.
comes to my favorite fruit breakfast, that would probably be it. Although it can be a bit higher in fat. But the smoothie that I have like all the time, pretty much every day for the years and years, is about 8 bananas. Eight
Okay.
bananas. Uh, Now like 4 tablespoons of sugar.
Okay.
Berries, about half, maybe like 200 grams of berries, frozen berries,
Okay.
and I might put some lime juice in there. What else? I'm thinking sometimes I put like stevia drops, and it's not because I want
Okay.
this, to avoid sugar. It's just because it
Yeah.
gives like a vanilla flavor.
Okay.
So yeah, you got to be careful with them. Sometimes they're non-vegan, but
Yeah.
yeah, that is it. With a couple of cups of water, blend that up.
Okay.
It's really delicious. It makes me feel amazing. So
Yeah.
that's a breakfast.
That's great. And then what is your favorite fruit overall?
Oh,
Which I know as someone who's fruit based, that's hard because the seasons change, but durian, okay, there you go.
oh, this one smells so good. Yeah, durian is by far my favorite fruit in the world. My favorite food. Oh shit. Um, but we're growing like heaps of exotic fruit here, like ankala. It's like this metallic pink fruit that's kind of like avocado. Like
That's cool.
dubai, this like African like cheesy fruit that it tastes like goat's cheese or something. Someone said, but I'm not sure. I haven't really tried that for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a lot of exotic fruits. It's hard to pick, but durian is my favorite.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, I shouldn't have been surprised.
Yeah.
And then how do you de-stress? Like what are some of the things you do when like stress is high?
What is it? I like to go for a jog. Jog is like I definitely enjoy a jog for a de-stress.
Yeah.
Um, I do some Netflix. Like my
Yeah.
partner and I think we're so successful together. Like it's been nearly 9 years
Oh
because
wow.
we have a lot of fun. Every day we're just having fun. It's not
Yeah.
perfect. I'm not going to pretend it's perfect because I don't think that's possible. But
Yeah.
we have so much fun and that keeps the stress low. So having fun, finding something that you enjoy, having a dance, that is really, yeah, that is really good. Um, yeah, I can't really think of anything else.
And then what's the best thing that you've noticed about your health eating the way that you do?
Oh, digestion has been number one because I
Yeah.
was suffering so intensely. Like I said in my other interview just the other day, like it was affecting my social life. So the number one is digestion. Skin has been really good too because I used to have a lot of pimples
Okay.
and patches of eczema. That's been amazing. But now I'm
Okay.
cheating. I'm giving you two. So
And then what's one thing that you wish more people understood about fruit-based or like, raw vegan eating?
one thing I wish they understood more, just the fact that it's how we're meant to eat. this suits our primate frugivore physiology. Like, this is it. It's not some fad diet. It's not some starvation, like, program. It's how we're meant to eat. And I think once they make that connection, like, it's really powerful. But getting people to make that connection is really, really difficult because they think they need a lot of protein. I want people to realize they don't need a lot of protein. There isn't such thing as a protein deficiency, a legit medical term for protein deficiency. There isn't. People will try and bring up kwashiorkor and marasmus, but they're actually calorie malnutrition, overall calorie, and then they get protein deficient. But yeah, hopefully that makes sense.
No, that's great.
Eat like you're meant to eat as an animal, a species-specific diet. Right.
Definitely.
Find your species-specific diet.
Absolutely. And it, like you said it's even not even that restrictive. When you eat fruit-based or raw vegan, you actually, really, like, you don't have to worry about calories really at all. You just eat till you're full and your body just balances itself out.
So much freedom. There is so much freedom. And I want people to understand that it actually tastes really good once your taste buds shift and you access good quality fruit and you add the sugar. It's actually how I want to eat, like, regardless of how good it makes me feel or look or all of that stuff. Like, I want to eat this way because it tastes the best to me. When you connect with that, when you actually get to that point, then it's like smooth sailing. Things are so much easier. And it's a very, like, enjoyable way to eat and live.
Yeah, enjoyable and freeing, like you kind of said. It's very freeing because you have all of these, like, ailments gone. You have such great health. You're able to do all these things without problems. And so it's like that freedom alone.
That is free. That is true freedom. When you start to see your body dropping excess fat and, just reversing all this illness, that is, like, huge, right? What is bigger than that? Your quality of life just increases so much.
Totally. Yeah.
I wouldn't go back. That's why I've been on it for 18 plus years.
Yeah. I know, you're a perfect example, like, because you've been on it for so long. Like, I'm only like 6-7 years in,
that's good. Yeah.
I'm fairly new, so it's, like, so nice to talk to someone who's been doing it for so long to at least show my audience, like, look what the possibility is. Like, look how much better it can continue to get.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you're doing really well. That's a long time, and I'm not surprised. And I can see you'll just continue on, and you're glowing and beautiful. You're a very good example of doing a fruit-based diet and succeeding and getting fantastic results.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. Well, thank you for being on my podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Such an honor. Oh my gosh. Like, I'm so glad we finally figured it out.
Yeah, me too. I'm really glad too. And you have great questions. Thank you. And hopefully it made sense to your audience about the sugar and they might explore it deeper.
Definitely. And I'm now going to try sugar in my fresh juice.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. Let me know how you go. Yeah.
I'll keep you posted.
Sounds good.